Hello students, welcome to the third part of keratoconus. That is the final part. So today we are going to study about interventional part of keratoconus treatment. So in intervention comes various types. One is the refractive surgeries, collagen cross-linkings, then intacs comes, and finally is the keratoplasty. So first of all coming to the refractive surgery. So now in advanced corneal surgeries, you might have heard about LASIK and PRKs. But in case of keratoconus, LASIK and PRK doesn't work because you need to have a adequate thickness of the corneal stroma for these surgeries. So as already the cornea is thin in case of keratoconus patients, these LASIK and PRK will not be working. So apart from that, the other mode of the laser surgery you can go for is the phototherapeutic keratectomy, where to some extent it will reduce the steepness of the cone, but there is the less possibility of further thinning of the cornea comparative to the other surgeries. So when some amount of corneal stiffness is reduced, you can go for the contact lens. Contact lens can be used, and it is usually helpful for the patients in a contact lens intolerance. The next and the one of the upcoming and commonly used the procedure is collagen cross-linking. It is especially used in case of progressive keratoconus patients to halt the progression. So what is this collagen cross-linking is? Normally the stroma is made up of lot of collagen fibers, and there is some sort of the linking is there between these collagen fibers. Okay, so in case of keratoconus, this linking is comparatively the bonding is very less and it is very thin. In normally also, as the age processes, this collagen bonding increases with the age due to the oxidative deamination reaction. Okay. So even in diabetes, it is found that the collagen, this linking is increases due to the glycation. Here we are artificially bringing about this collagen binding or the bonding by using the chemical used as the riboflavin along with the ultraviolet light. What exactly the mechanism takes place is this riboflavin causes the release of oxygen radicals that in turn induces an oxidation reaction to create a new cross-linking bonds between the collagen molecules after exposing to the ultraviolet rays. Okay. So what are the indications for this collagen cross-linking? As I told you, it is for the progressive keratoconus. So there is no need to use in case of the static keratoconus patients. Okay. So when there is a progression of keratoconus is there, you can use this collagen cross-linking therapy. Another one is post-refractive ectasia after LASIK and other refractive surgery. If there is a further thinning and further increase of the refractive error, in that condition also you can go for this collagen cross-linking. Other is the pellucid marginal degeneration, bullous keratopathy, and in some infectious keratitis, that is corneal ulcers, to halt the thinning, melting of the cornea. There also you can go for this collagen cross-linking. And this ultraviolet acts as the anti-infective, kill the organisms to some. When you see this picture, you can make out in first picture you have very less the bondings between these collagen fibers. Okay, so after use of this riboflavin and ultraviolet rays, this bonding is increased, and as well as the space between these collagen fibers also decreased. Okay, the bonding increases. That's why the stability of the cornea is increased. So this is the machine used for the collagen cross-linking. You can see the drops, the yellow colored drops what we are using is the riboflavin eye drop. So depending upon the thickness, the percentage of or the tonicity of the this riboflavin varies. If 400 microns or more than that, you can use the isotonic riboflavin. If it is less than that, you have to go for the hypotonic riboflavin. Okay. What are the complications there? So complications are the patient may go for the further corneal haze or keratitis may occur. There is a reactivation of viral keratitis, infective keratitis, corneal scarring, edema and corneal blood. So none of the procedures are without the complications. So we should be very cautious whenever we are using any sort of this therapies. Okay. So now coming to the next upcoming the therapy is the intrastromal corneal rings. So what are these intracorneal rings? These are a hemispherical, a kind of PMMA rings, half circle rings, which are placed in the corneal stroma. You can see the picture which is showing on the slides. So you can make out this half circle, these rings are placed in the stroma of the cornea. This acts as, this brings about the shortening of the curvature of the cornea. The anterior, if anything is steepening and if you pull the peripheral part, how the steepening or the curvature is decreased, the similar way the mechanism of these intacts is. Okay, this flattens the cornea by peripheral pulling of the cornea. Okay. So as I told you, these are placed in the 70% of the depth of the corneal stroma, and this separates the corneal lamellae, and that's why it brings about the arc or the corneal curvature and hence flattens the cornea. So by picture wise you can see when there is some arc or something rope is tied in the two trees. When the arc is more, with this the rope by peripheral pulling, so the steepening or the flattening of that the curvature is decreased, the similar way. Coming to the last part, that is the surgical part. When patient is not responding to the any mode of this treatment or patient doesn't want to go for, then the final indication is the keratoplasty. So there are again the various types of keratoplasties are there. You know, that is penetrating keratoplasty, that is full thickness keratoplasty, lamellar keratoplasty, that is the partial thickness, and deep anterior lamellar keratoplasty, that we call it as a DALK. So full thickness keratoplasty is where the deceased or the affected cornea is completely removed and the donor cornea is replaced. Whereas in partial thickness, you are removing the stroma by various methods in the blades till your Descemet membrane. So you are keeping the Descemet membrane intact to avoid the this resection and graft failure, as is to say. Okay, so in that we remove the deceased cornea till the endothelium, and only the donor's cornea of stromal part, epithelial and stromal part is only taken, and where the endothelium and the Descemet membrane is removed from the donor cornea, and that much is replaced. So it has a high success rates comparative to the full thickness keratoplasty. Okay, as the endothelium is improved. Most of the time, the corneal graft failure is because of an endothelial reaction. So to avoid that, we can go for this kind of surgery. If DART fails while doing the surgery, there is a possibility of the perforation in the penetration. So that time you need to convert into the full thickness. So in initial stage, you can go for the DALK, and if it fails, then you go for the full thickness. So students,